these are the people that make sure that the seller is in fact the seller and has the right to sell the home, that whatever loans he's put on the property are taken care of, so that when you buy it, it is 100% yours.
I have slides.
Yes, you do.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm still sleepy. Let's do some participation. I've got a question for our participants. Who has ever purchased a home before in Maryland? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. What constitutes a first-time home buyer in the state of Maryland? Y'all gonna wake up. What is a first-time home buyer? You're gonna let somebody else answer? Nope. Next.
It's a person who has never owned a home in Maryland before, even by.
There we go. So why is this important, and why is it good news for the two of you who have not yet purchased? So in the state of Maryland, when you are considered a first-time home buyer for the purposes of your contract, that means I have never owned and I have never been titled to, the state will grant you a complete exemption from the state transfer fees. But here you go. Look, Brenda, I'm going to throw you a squeegee ball. Yay. My bad. I didn't play sports in school.
Leanne, what if somebody owned property in, let's say, Virginia?
You're good. It's just specifically from Maryland. So it's a credit specific for Maryland. The 3-year rule, unfortunately, I'm finding, is what's being taught in real estate school. The 3-year rule is only for programs, period.
So financing.
Exactly, for financing. So my realtor partners know not to complete their contract that way. All right, so what is a settlement agent? We are the parties that sit behind the transaction, the entire transaction, meaning as soon as you've contracted. My name is Leanne Rodriguez. I've been doing this for about 25 years now. I love my job as well. I'm excited, like all my partners and my peers here. The simple answer is we help you get from contract to close. We are the people that take care of, as Jane said, we review the title to a property. What is the title to the property? What are the records of the property? And we do this by going physically to the courthouse, reviewing the records at minimum 60 years backwards. I've had title work recently that went back beyond 60 years, was closer to 100, where the deeds were actually handwritten. So we are responsible to make sure that this property from the seller can transfer to you clear and free of any encumbrances, judgments, liens. Oh, you're way too far. Is that the first one? That's my first one. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about the specific things that we do. So we verify the title, the legal records. We also are responsible for the money in, the money out. We're responsible for sitting down, don't go back, sitting down with you to go over the documents. I'm not there to sell the loan. By the time you sit with me, you should know everything you need to know. I'm just there to finalize it. We're also responsible for recording the legal documents, the most important ones being the deed and the trust. So when you talk about money, wire fraud is really, really bad in our industry right now, to the point where the title company that I work for, we have 4 different cyber security policies that are quite expensive. But to make sure that our emails are secure, and there's a few things that I tell clients when I'm introduced and work with them. Number 1, we will never change our wiring instructions during your transaction. First of all, it takes about 30 days to open an escrow account. Longer if you can't find the signers. Number 2, if you receive wiring instructions from someone, and it could appear to look like it's from me, I think I have a slide in there. It could also appear. Hover over the email address, and I guarantee you it's a Gmail account. Do not open it. Number 3, our instructions come with, you must call the office to verify the instructions prior to sending your wire. Good news is we will accept certified checks, but it's really important because there's 2 times that you will potentially provide money to me. Earnest money deposit, closing costs. All right, your lender and your realtor will never send you my wiring instructions. If they do, ignore it. If they do, call them and say that you've received an email with their wiring instructions. We do not copy the lender. We do not copy the realtor, and that is basically for their protection. So if, God forbid, anyone is spoofed, you will have no liability. What does a spoofed email look like? Here's a great example. This is an email where someone actually pretended to be the owner of my company. But if you look at the email address, it says closingagent001@gmail.com. We are required to have secured emails. They will never be a Gmail account. They will never be AOL. And I'm leery of any title company or lender that has a Gmail, Yahoo, so on and so forth. And these spoof emails are real quick, right there. Please see attached, send your wire. Nothing about money, nothing really about your property address, not even addressing you. All right, next one. Unfortunately, in 2020, I had a client that was spoofed. She lost about $75,000, but I can promise you it was not my account that was hacked. She received an email that appeared to come from me and her realtor, in which the bad guy told her, now she's buying her property in Maryland, to wire her funds to an account that was in Las Vegas, Nevada, was not to a title company, was into an individual person's name, and the bank was a very small bank. Now, by the time we realized what she did, it was kind of too late. And the particular bank that she worked with made her handwrite the request and clearly put on their request form that they take no liability for any misrepresentation of the wire. They were out $75,000. I had one about 5 years ago. It was an investor who worked with us all the time, received an email that appeared to come from his realtor. Again, realtors and lenders will never send you wiring instructions. This particular client sent $175,000 to a bank in California for a property in Maryland. We were notified immediately, which in turn means that we have to notify the local police wherever the wire went. We have to call the FBI, and we have to call our underwriter, even though, again, it wasn't our fault. His agent was actually sued because his agent was compromised. Next. I would tell you about the $1.1 million one in DC, but I won't. All right, be smart, be safe. It's really hard to get that money back. Should you choose to work with Pride, we accept certified funds. We do not care if the only time we do not accept certified funds is for a completely cash transaction. Because in Maryland and DC and Virginia, money must be in the escrow account when pen touches paper, okay? Yes, we are verified. Doesn't mean a lot to you guys, but we went through a lot to be secure Insight verified. We have to, right after the market crash, we had to create our best practices. It is about 11 volumes long, and we have to keep that up every year. Lenders, mostly, are the people that want to verify that we are vetted, and we are. Next. All right. This I can actually pass out to you guys. All right, what is title insurance? What do I ultimately do? I call myself a settlement officer, but ultimately, I'm an insurance salesperson. I just sell a different line of insurance. I sell a line of insurance called title insurance. How is my insurance different from most of the insurances you'll hear about? Private mortgage, mortgage insurance, homeowners. Our insurance covers your interest, number one, which is not tangible. Our insurance pays backwards, number two. Number three, with title insurance, you pay for it one time. As long as you own the property, it remains in effect. How many of you have car insurance that you paid for one time and it remained in full effect? Nobody? Okay. When you go to purchase a home, yeah? Yes, ma'am. We don't. I'm a full-time licensed title insurance producer. Those are contractors. So they don't work directly for a title company. They work for themselves. Yep. So when you purchase, you would purchase, and you borrow money, you have no choice but to purchase a lender's policy of title insurance. So the lender's policy protects the lender's interest. What is the lender's interest in your transaction? Obviously, the money that they're loaning to you. You have the option, which all of us in this room would strongly encourage, to purchase an owner's policy of title insurance, which protects you. Most importantly, your cash to close. Again, they're both paid for one time. As long as you own the property, they remain in effect. Unfortunately, I've had transactions that were tight and money needed to be found, and purchasers were convinced to waive their right to an owner's policy. One in particular was told by their lender, not Fiducia, not to worry that the lender's policy would cover them. So I have another question. My car insurance, your car insurance covers my car, right? Exactly. Your insurance policy covers the named insured, right? Doesn't matter what line you have. And the purpose of insurance is to put you back in the same financial position you were before the occurrence occurred. Doesn't matter what line of insurance you have. So before, it's my stress ball. I have more though. Before you would waive your right to the owner's policy, have a conversation, because there are ways to get a discount on it. We like to give discounts. The most popular way to give a discount is when you're negotiating with your seller, your agents will ask for the seller's owner's policy of title insurance. Does not matter how old it is, whether it's a year old or 20 years old, we can still accept it. Many title agents will not tell you that in Maryland and DC, we are required to let you know if you get this policy, we will discount your new policy up to 60% face value of the seller's policy. You with me? Seller buys for $200, you buy for $300, that first $200 is discounted. Why won't they tell you? Because it cuts into their commission. Now in Virginia is known as a negotiated state. I do not have to offer that to you, but we do. All right, the four most important documents, in my opinion, that you and I will go over during closing are your CD, closing disclosure, your note, the document that tells you interest rate, principal and interest payment. It's also the doc that the lenders use to sell your mortgage. Deed of trust, mortgage, the lien that is recorded at the courthouse, public record. Deed, the document transferring the property from the seller to you. The first three docs are signed by you as a buyer. The deed is signed by the seller because they're transferring the property. Any questions? I know my part is just as boring, not exciting, but I'm very important, I promise you. So that's an example of what a closing disclosure looks like. Since you've never purchased before, it's not even worth me talking about the HUD one that went away back in 2015. But at this point, this is what I would say. You remember the HUD one, you remember the truth in lending, and the itemization of amounts financed. Well, they had a baby and made the CD, because all those documents now are in one. That's my easiest way to explain it. All right, that's an example of a note. What does a note look like? Note is not notarized in Maryland. Except it'll be 50 pages. No, notes are 3 pages. Trusts are a different story. So your note, that's the doc that goes back to the lender, because a lot of lenders like to sell their loans. Too fast. Go back. No, don't, you know what? The screen before was your deed of trust, mortgage. That's the document we take to the courthouse, but not really, to record your mortgage. That's public record. Your deed is also public record. So people can see what your loan is for, and people can see how much you paid for the house, but they don't know what your payments are. That information is included in the note, which goes back to the lender. Yep.
Funny story.
Yeah.
When we bought our forever home, at settlement, the deed of trust, reference in conversation to the deed of trust, the title attorney said, this is a pretty liberal deed of trust. It actually gives you up to 8 months of making no payments before they start the foreclosure process. And I said, oh, show me that part. And my husband goes, if we need to see that, you need to tell me that. So the deed of trust tells you what will happen if you don't make the payment and how soon action can be taken. So that has always stuck with me from 1989.
That's funny, because a lot of attorneys that I work with, because I am not an attorney, when they close, they say, when they get to the trust, you pay, you stay, you don't, you won't. And it used to bother me. I said to my attorney, I said, you can't say that to a first-time home buyer. You're gonna scare him. He's like, but it's the truth, it is. You pay, you stay, you don't, you won't. All right, we're gonna move on. All right, property taxes, not as exciting, but exciting. There are a few ways to reduce your property taxes in the state of Maryland by way of a home owner's credit, which means I live in my property and I own it. No, I did that backwards. Homestead credit, I live in my property and I own it. Home owner's credit, if you make under a certain amount, last time I checked it was $70,000, you can also reduce your real estate property tax liability. If you are 100% disabled veteran, you can reduce them completely.
And the veteran reduction is if you're 60% disabled VA, then you reduce your taxes by 60%. If you're 100% disabled, it's 100%. So whatever your percentage of disability, that's what they'll reduce your taxes by.
That's interesting because VA rep, we fought for that and they would not allow anything less than 100%. That's really interesting. So I've been teaching wrong because I did not know. I thought you had to be 100%. All right, so I really can't see. I'm not even gonna pretend.
Top
Not even
10
gonna pretend.
things.
But the top 10 things you should know about the closing process, each one of my peers, my partners have gone over it. It's real simple. You need the money, you need the realtor, you need the title, you need the inspection, you're gonna need homeowner's insurance. All right, any questions? Anybody? All right, what line of insurance do I sell? Oh, you weren't supposed to answer, but you're right. All right, here you go.
Leanne,
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. So
Thank you.
one of the major things about title and title insurance is this is what says you own the property. And this is a true story. So I bought my property in DC, and I was still unpacking boxes, and a gentleman knocked on my door. And unlike most people, I actually open my door when people knock. And he marched in and he told me that this was his grandfather's house and that I needed to get out. And I looked at him and said, well, that's fantastic that your grandfather owned this house back in the day, but I own this house now, and I know that because I have a deed that says so. Had I not had title insurance and had his claim had any validity to it at all, let's say his grandfather did not sell the house, that somebody took it from him, kicked him out, strong-armed him, maybe he went away somewhere where they locked him up, who knows? And the grandson shows up and says, hey, this is my house because my granddaddy owned it. Well, if I can't prove that the house was legit sold by somebody representing his grandfather or whatever, and the following people all the way to me, we'll be in court. And that'll be real expensive. So the deed is how you prove the house is yours. The title insurance is how they documented all of those transactions that happened between then and now. And so that's why it's extremely important, and I would never recommend someone not get title insurance. I've had a couple of clients refuse it. Thankfully, no adverse effects to that thus far, both of whom were lawyers and did their own title research. So, they were comfortable assuming that risk.